Welcome to People. I'm Courtney Hall, your host for today. Let's get started. Like all of us, award-winning Chicago Sun-Times columnist Maudlyne Ihejirika has a family history. Now, the harrowing story of how her family came to this country is captivating readers. Maudlyne, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
You know, as a journalist, you're so used to writing about other people. Yeah. What made you want to write about yourself and your family's history?
Well, you know, I'd always known my family's story, our miraculous journey from war-torn Biafra to the United States, landing here in Chicago on June 9th, 1969. But it just became just another story as you grow up. And then at a certain point, it was, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to tell that story one day. And I worked on it, and it took 17 years to finally bring it to fruition.
And the book is called Escape from Nigeria.
Yes.
It's your family's history and how they came into this country. War is the backdrop. For those of us who do not know very much about what was going on in Nigeria in the 1960s, 70s, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Nigerian-Biafran War started in 1967, and it did not end until 1970. And by the time the 3-year war was over, 2 million Igbos had been starved to death, at least 2 million. It was a war that began because Biafra and the Igbo tribe wanted to secede from the country of Nigeria. Nigeria said no, and so a war broke out.
And during that time, your parents were actually separated because your father was going to school at Northwestern.
Yes.
So how did they come back together? It took a lot of people to get that to happen.
Yes, it did. We were stranded in war-torn Biafra. My father left in 1966 to go study in Sierra Leone. When the war broke out in '67, it cut off all communication with the outside world. No one could come back in, no one could go out. So my father, once he completed his studies at Sierra Leone, not being able to return to Nigeria, he got a scholarship to come study at Northwestern University in Evanston.
Meanwhile, you and your mother and your 5 siblings are in Nigeria.
Exactly.
And a war is going on.
And a war is going on. And it was a brutal, horrific war. The type of war that, well, you know, war is always brutal and horrific. But it was a war that those who lived through those times will remember the images beamed through living rooms across the world of women and children dying from a condition called kwashiorkor. And it's a condition where the stomach turns on itself until the person is no more than skin and bones and distended belly. So it was a horrific war that we lived through.
Where starvation was used as a tool of war.
It was the first time in history that starvation was used as a tool of war.
Now, the uplifting part about this is because it took Americans, people of different faiths, coming together to help your father somehow get in touch with your mother and bring you guys over to this country. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Yes, and that's the miracle. That's really the miracle of this story. So here we are, death is all around us. The war is raging. Mom is doing everything and anything to keep 6 children alive. She was pregnant unbeknownst to my father when he left the country. So now she has 6 small children. And so at some point, one of the nuns with whom she worked and trying to feed the village said, what's weighing on you? And she told her, my husband doesn't even know if we're alive or dead.
A lot of coordination. This is a lot to deal with in the book, and they finally came into this country. Your mother is still alive, and the blessing is that you got to talk to her and some other people to kind of pull this story together. You have a signing coming up. Can you tell us when and where that is? Yes,
we have a book signing coming up at Bookends and Beginnings in Evanston on September 18. We invite everyone. It is the place where Dad was living and when this miracle occurred. It is the place where 5 North Shore, where 5 North Shore couples came together to help him find us in the middle of a war and bring us to the United States.
Thank you so much, Maudlyne. Again, that book is available on Amazon now, and it's called Escape from Nigeria, a memoir of faith, love, and war. Maudlyne, thank you so much for joining us once again.